Reasonably high. It's a little more normal now, and Hank Parker is here to tell us how.
Hey, thanks guys. I'm telling you, we got a different Kentucky Lake this year than we've had in the past. Last year it was probably 8 or even 9 foot higher. Water was rising like crazy. It was off-colored, and the fish were pretty aggressive. This year, they're telling me the fish are not nearly as aggressive. We'll see later on, but the water is falling, and it's clearer than I've ever seen for this time of year on Kentucky Lake. But we've got 4 different fishermen today, and they fish all different styles. So we're going to see how they approach Kentucky Lake and what they do to find fish under these conditions. We've got Yamaha Pro Terry Bolton and Kelly Jordan. We've got gentleman George Cochran, who has just been introduced into the Hall of Fame. He is a great friend of mine and a Ranger Pro. And then we've got Pedigree Pro Steve Kennedy, who is our defending champion. So we've got a great lineup coming up today. We're going to see how they approach Kentucky Lake and find fish under these conditions. It's going to be a little different this year. We'll see how our guys approach it. Back to you guys.
Kentucky Lake, considered by many anglers one of the best bass fisheries in the country. It's also one of the largest man-made lakes in the country, with over 2,000 miles of shoreline. And a look at the map shows there's even more to this fishery because Lake Barkley is also in play, and that's another 1,000 miles of shoreline. Now, Barkley is part of the Cumberland River system, and Kentucky is the lowermost impoundment of the Tennessee River chain. In between, of course, the popular land between the lakes. To set the stage for 2004, let's go back to last year, when the FLW pros faced extremely high water that really seemed to spread the fish out. Before the event, we hit the lake with Dan Moorhead and then with Kevin Van Dam, and they agreed, as did many pros, that shallow was the way to go. But as winner Steve Kennedy showed us, there were lots of fish away from the banks. His fish came from one spot, in fact, 8 to 10 feet of water between bushes and a grass line over a gravel flat. He used crankbait and Carolina rig to catch his fish. And then Davey Hyde, who ended up second, caught fish after fish on a Carolina rig off a submerged brush line. Along with the water being shallower, it's also clearer this year. In fact, locals say it's as clear as it's been in several years. And that could be great news for sight fishermen like Kelly Jordan, who you'll meet later in this show. I mean, sight anglers may have a field day in this event if the water stays clear. We're just outside Kentucky Dam Marina. This is where the tournament launches from, and from here anglers have quick access to the canal that runs between Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake. If they go to Barkley, they may run as far as 70 miles south. Some of the flippers will make that trip. Kentucky Lake, they may also go 70 miles, and some ledge fishermen will choose to make that trip. Kentucky Lake is famous for its underwater ledges, and they may well play a key role in this event. Generally, they're secondary river channels, and the idea is to run a crankbait over those channels in about 9 or 10 feet of water. A lot of pros say the tournament's going to be won doing just that. Back in the launch area now to find out how some of the pros are going to approach this event. So we stopped a couple of them and asked them to name one bait they have to count on this week to try and do well on Kentucky Lake.
I'm Greg Hackney, Yamaha Pro from Gonzales, Louisiana. I just kind of like a jig right now. These fish, these are late spawning fish, and the ones that are out there have already been out there for a while. So the biggest predator that they have out there is the brim. So I want my jig to look like one of those brim, you know, something that they're trying to keep away, another predator that they're trying to keep away from their nest.
I'm Jim Tutt, Kellogg's Fishing Pro from Longview, Texas. The lure I had success with this week is an 8-inch green pumpkin zoom lizard with a 1/4 ounce tungsten weight and a 4/0 straight shank hook. Dying to tail chartreuse, catch my fish in about 8 foot of water. They're kind of transition, moving from the backs of the coves out towards the main lake points and the main lake drop-offs.
Hey, I'm Billy Bowen Jr. from Ocala, Florida. I'm fishing a BB cricket. This is the bait that's going to win this FLW on Kentucky Lake. We decided to go to a slower fall and went to a 5/16 weight with a 65-pound test stealth. And we started pitching the bushes with a cricket, and boom, it really paid off. I mean, we started catching some nice fish.
You hear a lot of people tell you horror stories about sharing information and how you and Dan have been doing that along with maybe another one or two guys.
Right, well, I mean, you know, if somebody tells you, you know, for instance, you know, I'm catching them on a Carolina rig on these 3 points, you know, you don't go back in there and fish those 3 points, but you go look for some points that are similar to that.
We talk about Dan Moorhead. Of course, he was our Land O'Lakes Angler of the Year last year, and I know what the audience don't know. I know that you guys our local friends and fish the Tuesday night tournaments together when you're in town, and been fishing buddies for how long?
We didn't really become friends till probably about 10 or 12 years ago. And you know, I always knew that he had fished quite a bit, and I was fishing tournaments, so we didn't really meet until we both started really kind of coming out here fishing professionally.
Now, do you think that all the fish have spawned?
No, I don't. You know, usually the big wave of fish here traditionally has usually spawned the full moon of May.
Which just occurred.
Which just occurred. But you're not seeing them. And with the water low like this and clean like it is, you know, you should be seeing them, but you're not. So that's kind of got, you know, I'm kind of under the opinion that some of the fish that are spawning, either they're spawning out a little deeper or in some non-traditional areas. I think some of these fish are spawning on the sides of these points.
As a veteran of Kentucky Barkley Lake, do you feel like the two lakes fish alike?
No, they're pretty different. They're pretty different animals. Barkley Lake's a younger lake. It's got a little more watercolor to it. It's got a lot more structure, shallow water cover, bushes, logs, things of that nature. And the fish always seem to be a few weeks behind over there what they are here, where if you start catching them on ledges on Kentucky Lake, usually it's 2 weeks before you really start seeing a significant move by those fish.
Terry, we're out here dragging these Carolina rigs around. I was kind of wishing we were a Texas rig, because I've heard all about, you're so particular, you paint your worm weights, you get everything just right.
That's right. I do that even when I'm flipping, you know, flipping plastics and, you know, little lizards and things like that. I try to match the color weight to the lizard that I'm using. All this paint is just regular paint, spray paint that you can use. You can buy at Walmart. Go to the craft section, get the glitter.
Okay.
And put some 30-minute epoxy, mix the glitter in, and just take a paintbrush and paint them up. You know, a lot of times I don't know if it really helps, gets more strikes, but if it gives you more confidence and you fish a bait with more confidence, then you're going to get more strikes.
Oh, yeah. Why do you think the wind is a contributing factor to fish biting?
Well, I think a lot of times it, you know, especially deep, you know, it'll shove bait fish, even shallow water, deep water. It'll put them in on places, and I think anytime you kind of break up that surface, it kind of, you know, especially in shallow water, it conceals you know, you and that boat.
Now, do they have largemouth bass here in Kentucky Lake?
They've got a few. We hadn't seen many, but they say they're here.
I was just wondering if they had any. Do you see that right there? That big blue heron, you know it's a tough day. He was over there at the dam a while ago turning over rocks looking for crickets. All right, Terry, it's feast or famine in the deep water. So far, we're on a famine. What do you think?
That's right, we are. But it can change real quick.
You're planning on that?
That's right.
And this is what you're going to do all day on Wednesday?
This is what I'm going to do.
All right, we're going to be watching at the weigh-in. And I tell you what, I wouldn't bet against him. He knows this lake well. Hey, don't go away. We're going to go to a commercial break, and then we're coming back with Ranger Pro George Cochran right here on FLW Outdoors. What year did you start doing this crazy stuff?
1979 is when I fished my first pro tournament.
1979.
But I was fishing in bass clubs and local tournaments back in the early 70s.
But you started pro in 1979, you haven't looked back. What keeps you going? I mean, why do you not burn out? That is a lot of years.
I know it, I just love what I do. I might get tired of the traveling and being gone, but when I get to the lake, I block everything else out and I start fishing. And I love tournament fishing because, you know, it's a roller coaster career. You'll do real good in a tournament or two and then you do bad, but it doesn't upset me if I don't do good in the tournament. I know there's one more right after this one.
You're pretty laid back. I will agree with that. What do you do, George, when you come to Kentucky Lake? You got two lakes here in Lake Barkley and Lake Kentucky, both huge lakes.
Right.
How do you go about establishing where you're going to fish and eliminate all this water?
Well, what I do is I make up my mind If the water would have stayed up like it was a week ago, I would have probably fished the whole tournament on Barkley, because I like to fish shallow, I like to fish cover, but the water has failed. You see a little water in the bushes, but most of the fish have already moved out deep. And I'm more familiar with Kentucky, this lake here, and so I'll stay in this lake and fish deep.
How many times have you fished this lake?
Probably a dozen times.
So you pretty much know what you're going to do
Right.
based on the water conditions when you come, what area you're going to concentrate on.
Right, and of course I share a room with Larry Nixon, and we share information, and you know there's not a better structure fisherman than Larry Nixon.
Now what's his name, Nixon?
Larry.
Okay.
We both fished shallow the first couple of days we were here, and we caught a lot of fish, and the water kept falling, and now we're both fishing out deep, because that's where the majority of fish are, and the good fish. So the tournament is going to be won deep.
How's it going to be won? Cranking?
It's going to be one cranking and throwing a Carolina rig.
That's the two deals.
That's the two deals. Yesterday, Larry caught 2 4-pound smallmouth. And yesterday I only caught 3 fish, but they probably weighed 14 pounds.
What's it going to take? You said 14 pounds. What's it going to take here to make the cut, do you think?
2 days. I would imagine it's going to take probably as many good fishermen as there is. It's probably going to take 35 or 40 pounds. I really believe.
So your 14 pounds may not be enough.
No.
Why you set the hook like that, George?
It's more fun.
You knew it was going to be a big one, didn't you?
No, it's not a big one.
Huh?
It's not a big one. He's fun to catch, though.
Hey, this is a rare moment on FLW Outdoors. Neither wind nor rain, hot or cold, will drive us off the lake, but lightning will.
It scares me. I swear. I'm done.
So we don't like lightning, so we're going to end our little segment a little bit soon due to the weather. But George, it's been a hoot fishing with you. And the one thing I didn't bring up while we were on the water is your induction into the Hall of Fame.
Well, thank you, Hank.
Man, that is great.
Yeah, I'm real proud of that, especially for my family and sponsors. I'm real, how can I say it? I'm just all about it.
That is fantastic. Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you,
the
Hank.
Hall of Fame, and thank you for a great day on the water.
I enjoy being with you. I wish you'd come back.
I'm going to do that maybe one of these days when they get the senior circuit.
I hear you.
Hey, don't go away. We've got Pedigree Pro Steve Kennedy coming up next, our last year defending champion. So more FLW Outdoors coming up. Hey, I'm standing here with last year our defending champion here on Kentucky Lake. Awesome win last year, Steve Kennedy, Pedigree Pro. Now tell me, Steve, this got to be fantastic to win a tournament with the day's competition. You won the tournament, and now you're all decked out, Pedigree, new boat. Louis is digging this Pedigree sponsorship. He thinks it's the grandest. How about tell me something? How did the win last year change your life?
Can't say it changed it.
You wouldn't
I hope it didn't.
You wouldn't say it changed it?
A few more people recognize us at the ramp. But I got a new boat.
You did?
Yeah.
Pedigree?
Yes, sir.
You know, before the tournament started, did you know you were on that many fish?
Yes.
You did?
Yes. I was the most excited I've been in probably 7 or 8 years.
Well, guess what? It paid off.
It did. It really did.
It wasn't
But
vain.
it was a pattern that I look for when the water comes up.
Okay.
It's something I've done. Dad showed me, you know, years ago at Lake Sinclair.
Okay.
Water come up 3 or 4 feet, the river turns to mud, all those fish that we catch out on the river channel just disappear. And they go in the pockets, and everybody assumes they go to the bank, but they don't.
And I think it's a huge disadvantage to be the defending champion and have completely different set of circumstances, because there's just enough to keep you holding on to what you did last year, to kind of mess with your mind a little bit. But yet it's not going to pay off, so you've got a bit of a distraction to overcome. So I really think it's a disadvantage to be a defending champion when the conditions are different. But
And I spent a day or two looking for those fish, trying to figure out where they went, what they were doing, and it took a couple of days to get off of it.
you said you had a ball last year catching all those fish, and that was pretty exciting. You were culling fish pretty early on, were you not?
I probably had a limit in my first 5 or 6 casts the first day.
Let's take a look. It's going to be fun. Look back. Here you are. Look at the man winning the tournament.
Strong fish. Now that'll help the calls there. Just bouncing along, trying to find those hard spots. Every time I feel something on the bottom, I'll stop the bait, just let it lay there. Another thing I keep finding out here is these little isolated grass patches. You just let it lay in there, try not to disturb it too much. Oh yeah, oh yeah. This is the one. Come on around the boat. This is the one we're looking for. Oh! Hate to see you go, buddy. Woo! Woo! Yes. This is awesome. Yesterday was probably the best day I've ever had on tournament day. Can't remember catching a stringer that big. I can get another one, we'll match it. Yeah, we need to call one. We got 20 pounds anyway. Woo! Wow. I wanted to go run and hit some other spots. I know a bunch. How can you leave? Well, you know, we caught that last 4-pounder. Man, this is fun. I did call home before this tournament started and tell Dad I was on them as good as I've ever been on them, but I had no idea I'd catch something this big. We never caught a fish over 4 pounds in practice. I'm just bumping it to bump it. Anytime I hit something, I stop it. You pop it and stop it, and then when you load up again, lots of times he's there. Don't let him get a good look at it, really, is the key. Just make him react to it. I don't know what this is. It's a good one. Oh, this is the one. This is the one. I am not believing that. What a bite. That's more than 5. Woo! Pull one of the trebles off, it's gone. Woo! That's 100 grand right there. If they be this, I kiss anything right now. I don't know what to say. Let's go around the boat once. Maybe not. Woo! 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 That's more than 5. Woo! Get this one. Are you sure you want to get it? Oh, I've never done this before. Oh. Woo! Good. Woo! Woo! Oh! Woo! Having fun.
All right, Steve. Good job, buddy. I know you're going to catch them. You're just going to have to work a little harder this year.
Enjoyed it.
Hey, don't go away on FLW Outdoors. Coming up next, Ozark Trail Pro Andy Morgan. Hey man, we're with the man, Kelly Jordan, Yamaha Pro. Kelly, how we gonna catch these fish on Kentucky Lake?
Well, right here, we're going to go back, see if we can't see any of them swimming around.
Is that what you've been doing?
I've been doing that some. It's kind of a fun way to catch them.
All right, let's do it.
Surprised there's not more stuff in the water. I was talking to Terry Bolton this morning. He said this lake's older, that's why the bushes are shallower. And I'm thinking, okay, so one's 40 years old and one's 60 years old. Why would that be that big a difference? But it is.
There's one, no, it's a dang gar hanging there. That's when I first saw it. I thought there was a good fish.
I saw a 5 pound. There's a good one. Look there. Look at that one.
That one ought to hit.
Yeah.
There's two of them there, see?
Yeah. There she is. Give her a shake, give her a shake. See it? Try on the back of it right now. Turning, turning, turning. Come on, bite it. Bite it, bite it. Give it up.
Now, how much time would you spend on this fish right here in the tournament?
Well, I'd give it a while. I'd let it come by one time if it turned on it. If it keeps on cruising like that, I'd come back later. I don't even see it right now.
I haven't seen her in a while. There she bit. Yeah, she got your jig.
Ha!
She did bite.
Bigger than I thought it was. That was a nice one. Hank, look at this one. Black spots all over. Right there. Whew, look at it. That's a nice one.
Moving on.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Oh, here we go.
You gonna get it?
It bit it, spit it out. Flip right around. He's gonna bite it. He's gonna catch him this time. Now just shake that sucker. Shake it right there. Shake, 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 shake. That's his bed, that black spot. Yeah, that's where you need to be, right there. Yeah, these are the ones that
Drive you out of your mind.
Yep.
Now, when would you call it quit? If you were fishing a tournament, would you stay?
I'd probably leave it for 5 minutes, come back. One of us has got to catch this fish now. It's personal.
You just cruise right over top of mine.
It's bit mine twice, but never long enough to set the hook.
He turned on mine right then.
Turns are cheap on this bass.
Turns are cheap, you're right.
Turns are cheap.
He's looking. He got it.
Oh!
He had you. God.
Did you see that? Now what I did then, he swam by and I just swam it in front of his face. I just popped it right for you.
I've been
get a
doing that.
reaction strike on him pretty good.
He got it. Catch that rascal.
I got you, you sucker.
That is so awesome.
Oh, what a
We
cool
got to show this fish. This fish,
cool.
it looks like a Dalmatian dog. He has got so many spots on him. If we're going to count him like redfish, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 spots on him. That'd be bragging if it was a redfish.
That would be bragging.
14 spots.
See if we can make him jump right here.
There you go.
There we go. Right on.
Now, that was about 16 minutes on that one fish, but that was what, a 3.5 pound?
Yeah, it's nice
Close
fish.
to 4 pounds?
Right. You know, if you could catch them all in 16 minutes, even though that was kind of frustrating, the way he'd go and go and go, and finally...
he never did like anything I threw in there. I threw a couple different baits, and the one time he went down.
Was it the bait or the angler?
I think it was the angler.
No.
I do. I think it was certainly the angler. Cannot believe that.
I can't either. Boy, she goes ballistic.
There you got her. Got her.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a nice one.
Now that is something that is so incredible. I don't know how many people realize how awesome this is, but most people give up on this sight fishing. We talk about sight fishing, we get a lot of letters and a lot of comments on sight fishing. Well, how long do you stay with the fish? Well, what do you do? And I think you're seeing a prime example of how much patience, how much time, and what it takes. And with both of us dragging these baits, bumping her, actually hitting into her, stirring her up, the more we aggravated her, the more aggressive she became. And finally, she hit the bait, and it looked like 2 minutes ago she wasn't going to hit at all.
Exactly. She was easing off. And I mean, there's a lot of it. It's, you know, reading the mood of the fish and just working the fish. And it's just something that, you know, it just takes practice, I guess.
It takes practice. Hey, man, you may not be the world's greatest sight fisherman according to you, but according to me, you are. That's pretty awesome. It was great. I really enjoyed that, and we don't have an opportunity oftentimes to demonstrate it and be patient enough to stay with it because of limited time, but man, you stuck with it and that worked out great.
Yeah, it's one of those deals, you know, you gotta have patience.
You got them, that's good. Kelly Jordan, one of the hottest guys going. Hey, don't go away, we're gonna go to a commercial break, and when we come back, we're gonna join Taylor and Carlton for our Kentucky Lake predictions.
Finding, Hank, that Kentucky Lake is a lot different than it was last year.
I'm telling you, 8 foot lower, and of course the water's falling instead of rising, and it's clear. I've been coming up here for about 25 years, and Kentucky Lake is clearer than I've ever seen before.
We just saw you fish with Yamaha Pro Kelly Jordan, also Yamaha Pro Terry Bolton, Ranger Pro George Cochran, and Pedigree Pro Steve Kennedy, who won here last year. Hank, what did they tell you?
All 4 of those guys are fishing completely different, which is surprising to me, but the one, Kelly Jordan, was fishing sight fishing and seeing a lot of good fish on the bed, so I think sight fishing is going to be a factor here. I really think, though, the tournament's going to be won more on a summertime pattern than a springtime pattern. I think big crankbaits, Carolina rigs, off the points, I think that's how this tournament's going to be won.
Can it be won with just one method, you think?
I think it may be a combination. I think you may get a good fish or 2 sight fishing and then pull out on the points with Carolina rig and finish off your limit and catch a good string and win the tournament, mixing the bag up a little bit.
All right, well, a little rainy, a little dreary, set the stage for a very pressure-packed day for our 10 finalists.
It was raining at takeoff, but even though it was raining, a little dreary there, it's great fishing here on Kentucky Lake. With the cloud cover, we can see some really huge stringers brought in this afternoon.
I got as good a chance as anybody. I just got to execute well and get all them bites. And I'm just going out to have fun today. You know, I thought about it last night and ain't no need worrying about it. Just go out and do the best you can and let it fall where it will.
I'm about 4 pounds, 5 pounds back, so I've got absolutely nothing to lose. It kind of takes the pressure off me. I can go for broke. We're going to go way back up Barkley Lake and just go fishing. And my goal today is really just to enjoy the day that God's given me to go fish and have fun, and hopefully we'll catch some big fish along the way.
I think it's on, man. I think if it's my time today, it's going to be scary. That's what I think.
Our anglers took off this morning. A lot of anticipation for the day ahead. The weather is supposed to clear up. We'll find out if it actually did a little bit later on. But Charlie, our 10 finalists have already cleared a major hurdle just making the top 10.
200 pros started out in this event. Only 10 survived from here, and those that survived were able to adapt, go through the changes. We're in a transition period here on Kentucky Lake, trying to figure out whether fish are spawning or post-spawn or pre-spawn. We need to be shallow, need to be deep, cloud cover, no cloud cover. Those guys that were able to adapt made it to the final 10.
And we certainly saw it all during days 1 and 2 here on Kentucky Lake. Let's take a look back at that qualifying round.
It's a little bit confusing right now because you have some fish that are spawned out and a few that are still trying to spawn, and some of them that have already moved out deep on summer patterns. So it's a game of trying to figure out which ones to go for.
Maybe the key is a lizard with a chartreuse tail. The best bass anglers in the world know Kentucky Lake is usually awesome, but sometimes aggravating. Awesome first. That's Kellogg's pro Jim Tutt cranking in Sled Creek. Tutt and co-angler Laura Aldridge catch back-to-back fish. First Aldridge on a spinnerbait at the boat, and then Tutt nonchalantly 2 minutes later.
Here we go.
A pink floating worm brings Tutt his second fish on the way to a limit. In a nearby pocket, co-angler Eddie Amos has a keeper when pro Chris McCall lands one that's just short of 15 inches. McCall ends up with 4 fish. Tyson pro Alfred Williams is throwing a lipless crankbait into 3 feet of water. He'd get a limit, but this fish is just short. Now the aggravating. That's Yamaha pro Cody Bird fishing a ledge under windy conditions that make deep water fishing tough and long runs even tougher. Bird has numerous bites, but no keeper fish. It turns out more anglers have success fishing shallow. Take Brennan Bosley, for example.
They were garden fry. I was catching them on a jig, and it was pretty much automatic. Anywhere I could find the right piece of cover, I could call my shots and I could catch a fish.
Almost half the field has 5 fish limits. Greg Hackney has 18.8, and it puts him in 3rd place. Terry Segraves, 18.14, good enough for 2nd. And crankbait specialist David Fritts weighs 20.12 to take the day 1 lead, but apparently without his best stuff.
They're not biting real good. Even when you get around a lot of fish, they're not biting real good, and you got to sort of finesse them in the biting.
Kentucky Lake. Day 2.
It's a different day. Every time the sun comes up, they do a little something different anyway, so you got to figure it out day to day.
Fishing is really so funny because it's all about making good decisions. If you don't make good decisions, then the outcome's going to be terrible. So you just have to concentrate, make good decisions, and don't get nervous.
I've got 5 fish to catch no matter what, and not competing against anybody. David's leading. He came in with 20 pounds yesterday, but not competing against anybody except the little green fish.
It's an anxious time for our FLW pros. 200 boats are getting ready to take off and begin their day on Kentucky Lake. And with over 40 pros within 4 pounds of the top 10, it's a wide open race here on day 2. It was partisan angling on Kentucky Lake between those fishing shallow and those fishing deep. Carolina rigs on ledges were popular and productive. Pedigree pro Greg Pugh took advantage of his early start with a 4-pounder before the rest of the field had left the launch site. Upstream in the main channel, Pennsylvania's Jack Bell is Carolina rigging a gambler ace very slowly, resulting in his first keepers of the tournament. The deep water success overshadowed the shallow water efforts in the first half of the day. The weigh-in provides the moments of truth. 4 anglers outside of the top 10 surged to secure a slot in the final round, and no one turned it up any higher than Castrol pro David Dudley. The FLW's all-time money leader hefted 20 pounds 9 ounces to jump from 75th place to 7th. Today's top 10 features some of the biggest names in the sport, including NASCAR pro David Fritts, who already owns a win on Kentucky Lake, and Brennan Bosley in his first FLW top 10.
Yeah, it's a real exciting time. I got a 1 in 10 shot at some big money, and I'm just going to go for broke tomorrow, the next 2 days, and see what happens.
There's also Greg Hackney, one of the hottest anglers in the country.
I'm just going to take a chance because there's only going to be one winner, and I want to be first, and it doesn't matter because second's the first loser. So.
We're on Kentucky Lake, real close to the Highway 68 bridge, and we're with Florida pro Terry Segraves. We've been watching him for about an hour, and he's doing 2 things. He's Carolina rigging the Rocky Points, and he's moving to the back of the pockets, flipping a black and blue jig in the buckbrush. Terry, tell me a little bit about what your pattern's been this week and how you're finding your fishing locations.
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag of fishing, really. Kentucky Lake's, I think, just a super place to fish, and you can really catch a fish just about any way you want to. There's some fish shallow and there's some fish deep. And I got a little place here that's got a creek channel in behind me coming into one of the bigger creeks on the lake. And there's some fish out on the points. When I get back into the back of the pockets, I like to fish the pockets. This week I've caught a couple of good fish back in here just pitching a jig around some of this stuff. And just a mixed bag of fishing. You have to kind of change up a little bit.
Terry's key choice for this tournament is a Carolina rig. And the way he's rigging this, he's got a 1/2 to 3/4 ounce weight with a glass bead and a swivel, running about 3 foot of leader with a lizard. That's a real good choice this time of year. As these fish are coming and going into these pockets, he's concentrating on the main lake points with deep water. Seems to be a real good way to get a good limit. Then he's looking for big fish with the jig. On Kentucky Lake, this is an important lure. As this water fluctuates up and down into these bushes, when the water gets to the summer pool, these fish flock to the bushes. And pitching this around the shallow buckbrush in the back of the pockets can catch you some big fish.
That was Terry Segraves yesterday working the Carolina rig with Scott Martin. He is back out on the water today. He's in position now to go for broke. And Terry, I understand you just got keeper number 1.
Yeah, I did. It's been a hard morning, but I'm not going to give up. This lake has got the fish in it. I just need to keep on it and keep focused and keep working.
Talk about that fish that you just caught, Terry. How'd you do it?
You don't want to know. I was adjusting the telephone on my ear, and I put my rod between my legs, and he took it.
That could be your pattern for the rest of the day, Terry. Maybe that's the trick.
That may be. I can do that a lot if they'll do it for me.
Terry, when you caught that fish when you weren't expecting to, does that tell you might need to slow down a little bit?
Yep, I've had 2 on a jig this morning. It just really, one just picked it up real easy when I need a log, and I missed him. Another one just kind of came up behind it and rolled up behind me. Hold on a second, I got another one.
Okay.
There's a good one too.
Great.
He's about 3 pounds.
Wow.
Excuse me 1 minute while I flip this one in the boat. Hey, you guys keep talking.
You are on a roll now, Terry. You can load it up right here in the next few minutes.
What lure are you using right now, Terry?
I'm using my 97-cent Walmart jig.
Oh, we are proud of you.
Hey, I'm proud of this jig. You don't know how many 20-pound stringers I've caught on this jig, and I've got a lot of faith in it, and I can't find a better jig that I like anymore, to tell you the truth.
All right, well, that's Terry Segraves. He's got 2 fish just while we were talking to him. He's on a roll, and he certainly needs a roll right now to be able to catch up and get back into
He's
this
got a
race.
long way to come back, but I know he wants to move up in the standings.
And everybody, of course, is chasing David Fritts. David Fritts, of course, entered today with our lead, 16 pounds and 8 ounces. Our own Larry Nixon caught up with Dave right now.
Right now, we're out here on the water with David Fritts. And David, would you describe just a little bit for us the type of structure that you're fishing, whether it's the end of the ridge or maybe a turn in it, or what exactly are you throwing at?
You know, this time of year, the best patterns are around big spawning areas, which you got right there and right back in here, and you get out here close to the mouths of the creeks or the mouths of the creeks, and you look for anything irregular, especially a little turn. Fish love to get in turns this time of year. Even though here on Kentucky Lake they seem to be more point oriented than fishing in the little turns, but like where I'm fishing right here, there makes a turn right behind me and hits this little point just like this, and that's where the fish have been feeding at, and that's what I look for. You know, I come up here and get this old, you know, this big DT16 out, and I throw it out there and try to catch them feeding somewhere.
The whole key is to be there when they're there, isn't it?
That's the whole.
There he is right there. Be a keeper, baby. Little fella or a sauger, or what is that? No, that's a bass. David's first keeper. What he's really keying on is the first ridges coming out of these spawning bays, and he's fishing either the end of the ridge or a turn in the ridge where he's got a good hard bottom, either gravel, rocks, stumps, anything that he can find. And it's just gathering spots early in the spring when they first come out of them spawning bays.
Well, thank you, Larry. Of course, Larry with David Fritts, our leader. In fact, he's led all 3 days of this tournament so far. Let's talk now about Ozark Trail Pro Andy Morgan. Bad news is he's in 7th place, but the good news is he's just 2 pounds and 1 ounce off of the lead, well within striking distance.
It's really tight there at the top, and of course, Andy out there, a master with a flipping stick. He could catch up in a hurry.
All right, well, we've got Andy with us right now on the water, and Andy, I understand you've already got some fish in the live well.
Yeah, I had a limit this morning at 9:49, but I hadn't had a big bite yet.
Andy, you still fishing shallow?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay with the shallow pattern until 1:45 today.
You're a threat in any event across the country, but you seem to particularly like Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, I love Kentucky Lake. I love the Tennessee River. You can just take me anywhere on the Tennessee River, I am happy. We need to get like 6 tournaments next year on the Tennessee River.
We'll see what we can do for you, Andy.
Great.
All right, that's Andy Morgan from Dayton, Tennessee, the Ozark Trail Pro, well within striking distance. He does need to catch some of the big fish a little bit later on in the day. We'll find out how he does when our shootout style weigh-in begins a little later. But first, when we come
gets into the final.
And he is swinging for the fences once again. He's on the water right now with our own Taylor Carr. And Taylor, I must say, you look a little wet out there today.
Yeah, guys, been raining since takeoff this morning. The good news is it's not supposed to last all day, so we should have some non-rainy weather. David Dudley from Lynchburg, Virginia, only 8 ounces out of the lead. But David, you're crankbaiting here, and that's not what you're really known for. What's your plan today? Well, I feel that the shallow water bite is a dying pattern. What I mean by that is most of the fish have done spawning, and the fish I've been catching shallow, even though I've qualified into the final round in second, basically fishing shallow, I feel that I need to go deep to win. It's funny, I have caught fish on every bait you can imagine. Crankbait, spinner baits, top water, frogs, lizards, tubes. The only thing I have left in the Grand Slam is a Carolina rig. I haven't caught a keeper yet on a Carolina rig. I might throw it, but I think a crankbait's gonna get a bigger bite than the Carolina rig. All right, David Dudley, good luck today. Thank you. This angler knows about winning. He's won 2 of the biggest prizes. In fact, the 2 biggest prizes in fishing history, $700,000 and $500,000. He's trying to win again and win $100,000 here on Kentucky Lake.
All right, thanks, Taylor. As you can see, we have a lot of worthy challengers to David Fritz's lead. One of them, Gonzales, Louisiana's own Greg Hackney. He is always stalking a leaderboard. He's one of the top anglers in the country right now.
He is on a hot streak. He's fishing with a lot of confidence. Matter of fact, let's go out to him right now. Greg, how's the day going?
Well, it's not going too bad. I've got a limit. It's not a big limit, but you know, it got me started this morning, and I'm just kind of looking for a couple big bites.
You are having a tremendous year this year. How can you get so hot so fast?
Well, you know, sometimes you just make the right adjustments, and this has just been one of those years where, you know, I've made the right moves everywhere I've been. I have a decent practice everywhere. I mean, you know, it's just really been good fishing, you know, and I think a lot of that is I fished a lot this year, more so than normal, and I think that's really helped me.
Well, you got a big sack going so far, but you really need a bigger sack to be able to make a run at this title here on Kentucky Lake. What are you going to do here the rest of the day to try to get those big fish?
I'm probably going to stay, and you know, unless I get some type of sign, I'm probably going to stay with what I'm doing right now. I have a lot of confidence. You know, I got several big bites in practice, and during the tournament I've had a couple, you know, doing this, so I'm just going to stay with it and see what happens.
All right, that's Louisiana's Greg Hackney. He's within 2 pounds of the lead, one of 7 finalists that are all bunched up there together. He's got a good shot.
He is on a streak. Things are going good for him. As you can see, he's smooth as silk out there.
All right, we've got 7 finalists within 2 pounds of our leader, David Fritts.
Well, you live and die by your decisions, and I didn't make the right decision. I guess I should have went right instead of left, literally.
Before the tournament started, I said a little prayer, and I asked God if he would give me a top 10. He gave me a top 10, no more, no less.
Yeah, it just doesn't get any better than this. I'm excited as I can be. I think I really probably made a name for myself this week. Showed some people that I've got what it takes, and you know, I plan on being around for a long time, and I plan on being out here in the top 10 again real soon.
Well, I tell you, I wish I'd known that those fish up there weren't going to bite, because I would have probably just gambled and gone to completely new water and had a practice day. That's what I really should have done. I feel like I've just exhausted the supply that was there, but I've had a great tournament, a really fun week. And I tell you what, it's always exciting anytime you get to make the cut and fish after they send 190 guys home.
I still think I needed to catch one big one either yesterday or today. I might would have had a shot then. It's easier for me. It's easier on my nerves if I just go ahead and say that I probably don't have a shot. Start entertaining the idea I might win, then I get nervous.
A great event for you, Andy. You had a limit here, but just not big enough. Let's watch you at work here on Kentucky Barkley Lakes. Flipping a jig?
I flipped a jig most of the day, a jig and a tube, but I think I caught all of my fish on a jig that I kept. I caught maybe 15 bass today and 6 keepers. I had a good day, had a good tournament. I got in actually by cranking. I cranked for 2 days and qualified. The rains, the storms came in and the wind. Couldn't sit out there good. A lot of the fish scattered for me. And I went to the bushes yesterday and caught 14.6 in about an hour and 15 minutes. So I went to Barkley today, which I fished Kentucky yesterday. Went to Barkley today and tried to catch a 20-pound bag, which I thought it would take a 20-pound bag today to win. So I went for the win. It's great to be at Kentucky Lake. It's one of my favorites, probably my favorite lake. Yeah.
Andy Morgan's favorite lake, certainly mine. Let's give him a great round of applause. Good job, Andy. Out on the water right there, we're going to watch you at work and watch your amazing technique. You are a talented angler. Long cast.
Yes.
deep crankbait.
Very deep. How deep is the water where you're catching the fish?
10 to 15.
Looks like you're working very hard. You even bend down in the boat to crank.
Yes, kneeling very deep.
Get the bait deeper by kneeling.
Yes, deep and rock humps, hit, crankbait hit, and bite.
All right, now I'm going to try this one here. How does this lake, Kentucky Lake here, compare to Lake Biwa in Japan?
Oh, this lake, I like it.
He likes it right here better. We like him better there. Shinfukai, Erlinda Lake's Angler of the Year so far. These two weigh in at 3 pounds, 13 ounces, just a little short.
Had a lot of blow-ups today, but they just wouldn't eat it. I think this one ate it pretty well. Yep. But I caught them every way. I caught them deep cranking, top water, wacky worm, flipping, you name it. I've caught them every daggum way this week. So I'm just pretty much junking around, but I was able to come up with hopefully enough to keep me up at the top.
Let's go real quickly to Birmingham, Alabama. Another shot at $500,000 there.
Yeah, I can't. You know, if I make it in there, I think I'm sitting pretty well as far as making it in the championship. But I would like to defend my title. It would be an honor to do that.
If anybody could, it would be David Dudley. Let's give him a great round of applause. Good job fishing out there this week.
I had some big bites, Charlie. I just today just wasn't my day. I don't know. I went over to where I caught some yesterday, and I didn't get to fish there first thing, and I had to move on. And you know, they wouldn't move in the water very much, and those clouds were real low, and it made it really hard.
What is it that makes David Fritts and crankbait fishing go so much hand in hand?
Charlie, I don't know. I do it all the time, whenever I can. And in fact, I do it when I shouldn't be doing it. And, you know, I've done it all my life. It took me 5 years before I ever caught a fish on plastic.
David Fritts, give everybody here, watching you here today, and also watching on Walmart and listening on the internet, if you could give all those guys that said, man, I wish I could crankbait like David Fritts, what would be the primary thing they would need to know?
Well, you know, the main thing is go buy you some Rapala crankbaits, some DT16s, and tie them on some 10-pound line. And get you a good crankbait rod and learn what it feels like.
That's good advice from David Fritts, the best in the world at crankbaits. Give him a great round of applause had so far this year.
Yeah, it really has been awesome. You know, if I don't win today, I don't have any complaints. I fished really good here, executed really well. I have not lost a fish the last 2 days. I've been perfect. So, you know, if it don't happen, it don't happen.
Let's watch some perfect fishing. We've got you in action out there on the lake. You love that flipping technique.
That's really what I've done for the last 4 days.
And again, Kentucky Lake or Barkley Lake or both?
Barkley. I normally fish on Kentucky Lake, but this tournament, I just felt better over there than I did on Kentucky Lake.
All right, you got a lead by 3 pounds, 6 ounces. If Tony's got one, we don't know. He's weighed in 4 so far. He's with CARLTON Wing. We're getting ready to find out.
All right, that's right. I've got Anthony Gagliardi right here. And Anthony, it's been an incredible week for you. What an incredible run. Let's take a look at some of the video and talk to us about what's worked so well this week.
I spent my whole practice trying to put together a deep cranking pattern. I figured that's what it was going to take to win, and I stuck with it the whole time. I never changed my game plan. I executed well. I made sound decisions, and I fished clean, and that's what it takes to win.
You trailed Greg Hackney by 3 pounds and 6 ounces. He has weighed in all 5 of his fish. What's it like to sit in your seat right now?
If I had to pick one person to go head-to-head at the end, I don't think it would be him right now. He's had an incredible year, but I'm going to see what happens.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's find out who our winner is right here on Kentucky Lake. Greg Hackney is already at the scales. He's weighed in all 5 of his fish. Anthony Gagliardi will reach into his live well and pull out his 5th and final fish. If it is 3 pounds and 6 ounces, he is the winner. If not, Greg Hackney will be the champion here at Kentucky Lake. Anthony, what you got in your live well? It's going to be a close shootout, Charlie.
What do you think?
It does look pretty close, don't it?
A beautiful smallmouth.
Again, 3-6 is the magic number for Gagliardi.
All right, step right up here real close, Greg. Somebody here is going to win $100,000. This is close. This fish weighs in at 3 pounds, 11 ounces, just enough.
Anthony Gagliardi is the champion here at Kentucky Lake, the 5th stop on the FLW Tour. Anthony, you have fished and fished well. This is your first FLW championship. How does it feel?
It feels great. It feels great. It feels like it's been a long time coming. I know I haven't fished that long, but it seems like it's been a long time, and you wonder if it ever will happen, if you're good enough to even come close. And this has been my first top 10 in 2 years, and to do it and get a win, it makes it amazing.
All right, we've got another big prize for you. Turn right over there to your right. Here is your check for $100,000. There he is, folks, your champion here on Kentucky Lake, $100,000 richer from Prosperity, South Carolina, Anthony Gagliardi. Here is our look at our final leaderboard. Anthony Gagliardi in first place with $100,000. Greg Hackney in second, $37,000. Followed by David Dudley, David Fritts, and Shinichi Fukai. In the next 5 is Andy Morgan finishing in 6th place. Brennan Bosley, Morizo Shimizu, Alton Jones, and Terry Segraves rounds out your top 10. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, you have seen the best in professional fishing right here on FLW Outdoors. Don't forget, next week, Larry Nixon.
Welcome back to FLW Outdoors. We're just talking fishing with David Fritts, who finished 4th in this event. But, David, you led on days 1, 2, and 3. And Larry Nixon, this is one great crankbait fisherman.
He really is. I fished with him up on High Rock one time, and I tell you what, he kind of hurt my feelings a little bit because he could hit an object out there in 18 foot of water, and I never once felt it.
You know, the key to crankbait fishing is finding where the fish come to feed at. It's just like if you throw a worm there or anything else. You know, if you go fishing around a point, it'll take you all day. But if you know where those fish come to feed at, then you get right there and you throw right there. And if they're biting, that's where you're going to catch them. And that's the same way it is with crankbait fishing. It's the same way it is with any kind of fishing. And what you look for is usually where the shallowest water hits the deepest water. And I mean, that's putting it as about as simple as I can put it.
David, your skills running a crankbait are so widely known. You had as many as 30 boats following you this week. Did that affect the way you fished? It had to some.
It was a lot of fun. Actually, the folks done really good. They stayed way out of your way, and they were pulling for you. You know, that's why they wanted to go. They wanted to see what you're doing and learn something too. And it's probably a good way to learn. But it was fun.
Well, David, 4th place is good. Congratulations, David Fritts, $20,000.
Great job, David.
All right, thanks, Larry.
It was a dramatic ending. We had 7 anglers within 2 pounds, 1 ounce of the lead. Here's a look back at some of the drama from. Understandably, all eyes are on Fritts, who won on Kentucky Lake in 1997 and whose 4 lifetime titles is the most in FLW history. Flashback to the day before, and you get an idea of the kind of crowd Fritts can attract. That many boats in one area can make fishing tough.
I think I got as good a chance as anybody. I just got to execute well and get all them bites. And I'm just going out to have fun today. You know, I thought about it last night and ain't no need worrying about it. Just go out and do the best you can and let it fall where it will. Yeah, it ain't quite as many boats out here today. They're probably all out there fishing where I fished yesterday, I'm afraid.
Spectators he can handle, but sometimes those spectators like to do a little fishing.
Let's go catch them.
We'll find out in a moment if Fritts has unwanted company. First over to Brennan Bosley, who already has 2 keepers and now owns the lead.
I've got 2 fish in the boat this morning. It's still fairly early. Neither fish is very big, but you know, those fish are real important. They give a guy confidence, enough confidence, you know, that he needs to keep going and going and going.
David Fritts does have a problem. He's not able to fish his best spot.
Somebody else's fishing area. It was actually the same boat that pulled on it after I left yesterday, or it looked like it was, but you know, it's free country. Sure would have been nice to fish there a little bit though.
He's still got final round company, but not as much as yesterday. What's worked for Fritts all week long is finding fish around Kentucky Lake's famous ledges, mostly near spawning areas and generally in 6 to 12 feet of water. Crankbaits are his bread and butter, but on day 4 he tries a jig too. Fittingly though, his first bite comes on a crankbait that he designed.
I come up here and get this old, you you know, this big DT-16 out, and I throw it out there and try to catch them feeding somewhere. That's the whole thing. He ain't much, but I'll take him.
Fritz has 18 pounds over 2 days and keeps pace with Bosley.
There's a school of fish here. Just sometimes you just have to throw and throw and throw and throw at the same piece of cover to get one on the bite. But usually when you get one to bite, I'll catch 4 or 5.
You know, I've got a Bible verse I love. It's Proverbs 16:11. It says, honest scales and balances are from the Lord. All the weights in the bag are of his making. So, you know, it's ultimately up to him. Life's not about fishing anyway. There's a lot more important things than fishing. This is just the really fun part of it that we get to participate in.
Well, this is just a little backwater off the, actually it's a big backwater, off the Cumberland River way up at the south end of Lake Barkley. It's a perfect spawning area. And I kind of chose it, one, because it was a long way from the competition, and two, because these fish up the river are going to be the last ones to spawn. They come straight off that cold Cumberland River, and they'll come in here to spawn. And the fry are little bitty tiny bass, about, you know, a 1/16 of an inch long right now. They're about 3 or 4 days old, and anytime you see that, you want to put your bait somewhere near it because there's probably a male guarding them. There's a good one. It's a big one. That'll work. Oh, man. Oh. Now, if that doesn't get you excited, you're dead. You know, it does so much for your confidence. Getting a big one in the boat, it really helps you slow down and concentrate on what you're trying to do. And it also tells me a little something. She was right on the outside edge. I've been catching them pushed back up in there. What I'm thinking may have happened, there may be some fresh fish pulling up that have been out in the middle out there. And maybe their first stopping place when they come in is right on that edge. Long runs up the rivers like that is when you get a bite, it's subject to be a big one. And I've been getting one big bite every day, including today. What's really hurting me is that yesterday I didn't catch it, and today I got the big bite and didn't get the little ones to go with it. So, you know, that's fishing. And we'll put it on the trailer and head to the next one.
FLW Outdoors comes to you from Benton, Kentucky, where you've just seen a 5-ounce win by Anthony Gagliardi. He beat Greg Hackney, Larry Nixon, but still, Greg probably is, I think certainly is, the hottest bass fisherman in the country right now.
He really is, Taylor. I'll tell you what, I'm so impressed with him. I don't know what to think, but he's just, every time I look up, he's doing good no matter where we are. I know you're basically a great shallow water fisherman. And are most of your events that you really excel in fishing shallow water?
Yeah, they really seem to. You know, I'm fishing the most comfortable, and you know, in the last few tournaments, just everything is rolled right. You know, the fish have been where I wanted them to be instead of where they wanted to be, and you know, and things have just really worked out well for me.
Now, in this event, you were pitching a jig pretty much most of the time that I see in the footage and things. How heavy a jig were you throwing, and what kind of a trailer was you using?
Oh, I was throwing a 3/8-ounce rattleback jig and putting a wave crawdad on the back of the big crawl.
The big crawl. Throwing a pretty good sized bait then.
Right, but it seemed like the 3/8 fell just a little slower than a half, and they really seemed to bite that better.
Huh. Well, the fish were probably real shallow, and a lot of times that's the way to get away from it is use a little 3/8 jig.
I don't feel like I've caught a fish this week over 2 foot deep.
They were real shallow.
They were
extremely
real shallow.
Now, were you using braid?
65-pound spiderware stuff.
65 pounds. I knew you used braid a lot, and you know, braid's got one thing that is really good: no stretch. If you get a bad hook set, you usually get the fish.
Right, and it really makes up for a bad hook set. You can get a little slack and still get by with it, or you know, in these bushes and stuff. I like to boat flip my fish, you know, and I think you get them in a lot quicker with braid than you do mono with no
I think
stretch.
you lose more by playing with them.
Right, the longer they stay in the water, the better chance they have of getting away.
You know, in a number of tournaments, you two have fished in the same area. That's not a bad commentary, Greg. This is one good fisherman right here.
This is a lifelong hero of mine right here.
Greg Hackney and Larry Nixon. Now back to more drama from Kentucky Lake. The Day 4 leaderboard shows the race remains tight. It's still Bosley with 18.5, followed closely by Fritts, then Dudley and Hackney. Over to Dudley, who's fished shallow most of the week, but starts the final day with a deep crankbait.
I feel that the shallow water bite is a dying pattern. What I mean by that is most of the fish have done spawning, and the fish I've been catching shallow, even though I've qualified into the final round and second, basically fishing shallow, I feel that I need to go deep to win.
He'd return to the deep stuff later in the day. First, back to the shallow water in Barkley Lake that has been his friend all week. Dudley's top water is about to get some action. A 2-pounder that gives him 18 pounds and puts him within 1 pound of Bosley and Fritts.
Look at that. That just shows you that they're barely biting that sucker. But I will take it. That's fish number 1. 4 more to go. This next log we're going to, I've caught 5 off of it the last 2 days, every time I fished it. You know, I don't know if any's replenished with themselves, but my first few casts of there, my heart is racing.
The log fails to produce this time, so Dudley goes back to the submerged brush and gets his second fish.
There he is, that's good. That's a good one.
Dudley now has 2 keepers and 20 pounds for the finals. He is the new leader. But Fritts is keeping pace.
There he is.
His second keeper on a crankbait gives him 19.5. Shin Fukai nets his second fish in 15 minutes and moves into 4th place. Morizo Shimizu explains that he's targeting a break that holds bait fish. His crankbait produces 2 bites, almost back-to-back, and he improves by 3 pounds.
We got my bait. Chase, chase, chase. Ready for this, scoring.
Greg Hackney barely gets his jig wet before he wrestles a 2-pounder to the boat. Andy Morgan's cameraman makes sure we can see this catch, and the Stratus Pro stays in the game with a 2-pounder. But Anthony Gagliardi is about to make a big move. He's fighting what seems like a nice fish, and then he sees it's something special and decides that calls for a marker buoy. The pro from South Carolina has hooked 2 fish on his deep diving crankbait, and though only one will make the live well, it tells him he's on to something good.
It's a big flat that drops off into a little secondary creek channel, and it makes a couple little swings along the way, and I'm starting on one end and just fishing it, because each day the fish have been positioned in a different place, and when you find them, they're grouped up.
Gagliardi's fishing exclusively on the Kentucky Lake side, targeting main lake ledges in about 12 to 14 feet of water, and he's just getting started. 7 minutes after his double, he nets his second keeper, and a mere 3 minutes after that, his third.
There's one.
That's number 4.
That's a big one. That's a good one.
That's 4 fish in 15 minutes, giving Gagliardi 24 pounds for the finals, vaulting him from 6th place to 1st.
I'm trying to keep my boat right on the edge of the break, so when I lose contact with the bottom, it starts coming up off the edge of the ledge. And typically, that's where they've been. Some of the fish we've been catching have been up on top of the flat, but most of the better ones have been coming right there on the edge.
As an exclamation point, Gagliardi's limit fish is not far behind. His 2-day total is now close to 27 pounds, and his lead is 4 pounds. Coming up on FLW Outdoors, Gagliardi's bite goes cold, allowing David Dudley, David Fritts, and Greg Hackney to stay in the game. Welcome back to Benton, Kentucky. Taylor Carr with Larry Nixon on FLW Outdoors. Larry, fishing a jigging spoon. You don't hear a lot of anglers doing it, but apparently it's important.
It's very important. It's probably the best wintertime lure a fisherman can use, and it's good any time of the year. It's one of them baits that imitates a dying shad in cold water.
You really need to watch it.
Take a look. Yamaha Pro Terry Bolton on fishing a jigging spoon.
I'm here with Yamaha Pro Terry Bolton, and Terry, on the FLW Tour we talk a lot about crankbaits, soft plastics, jigs, but we don't talk too much about the jigging spoon.
That's right, the jigging spoon is a little mentioned lure now.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of it is today's fishermen are more into crankbaits and spinnerbaits, and also the fact that we fish a lot in the springtime now, and a jigging spoon tends to be more, it's more effective in the late fall and early winter type stages when the bass are schooled and a little deeper and more shad oriented.
What's the main feature of the spoon?
Well, the main feature is you can imitate, you can fish it vertically in deep water, and you can imitate a dying bait fish as it flutters back to the water. And as the water gets colder, your bait fish start to die off, and they'll just start to slowly descend to the bottom, and that's what you're trying to imitate with a spoon.
Can this thing be a big fish bait?
It can at times. It's typically a limit type bait, but you can catch big bass on it.
And just as soon as it hits the bottom, pop it up there again.
As soon as it hits the bottom, just kind of pop it up. I think my spoon, I got a little one, little stripe. Just as soon as it hits the bottom, you pop it back. You got one?
A little one.
Little one?
Some little bitty guy.
Hey,
there we go.
Bluegill. I said, there's no telling what you'll catch.
You said we'll catch a little bit of everything. They grabbing it on the fall?
Yeah, just most of them will hit it on the fall. Usually when you pop the bait up, that's when you'll feel them. Sometimes you'll feel the strike, you'll see the line jump, you'll feel it, and sometimes when you go to pull it back, there'll just be resistance. He'll just be there. So you kind of have to be ready, because you never know when you might get a strike. Uh-oh.
I just
kind of got surprised.
I was just getting ready to say something, and somebody jumped.
You got the right, no, not the right one.
Well, look at that.
That happens a lot.
Oh, got him where it hurts. The old treble hook suppository. Ouch.
That's one good thing about spoons, is even when they're not biting, you still got a chance.
Yeah, he'll be talking about that all the way back down.
Yeah.
Now, is this the kind of lure you can also use in the summertime when the fish are going deeper?
Right, you can use a spoon in the summertime also. And actually, used to a spoon, and there are still a few people that still use it. But usually whenever fish are in deeper water, that's when it's effective. But usually it's colder water, because the fish will stay bunched up tighter in one place. All right, got one. A drum.
Okay, is that number 4? Species number 4? Yeah, I see him.
Yeah, he's a stripe. Thought it was the right species there for just a moment, but it's a white bass. It's pulling harder.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the right kind there, Carl.
There we go. Look at him try to run away, huh?
Nice fat spotted bass.
Terry told us we'd catch a lot of different species of fish, and as we take a look at our checklist, we've caught everything except something big. Well, that changed when we moved to a rock wall, one favored by the local urban artists and also favored by large spotted bass. We both caught 9 keepers. Mine, of course, was foul hooked. Terry's was a little more traditional. Well, Terry, let's go over once again in conclusion the finer points of fishing with a jigging spoon.
That's right. I use a 6/6 medium heavy rod, 14 to 17 pound line, 3/4 to a 1 ounce spoon, and I also put a little bit of an oversized hook on the back to give you a little better bite. And even sometimes I've got these tied direct, but sometimes swivel to help reduce line twists.
You know, Larry, we've had 5 first-time winners on tour this year. Do you remember your first win?
Yes, I do. In 1978. That's a long time ago, but you're going to see more and more new winners because these young kids are very good. They've learned very fast from all the videos and all the pros. We've taught them so much about bass fishing. All 200 guys in this tournament can fish.
At this event, it was Anthony Gagliardi. When we come back, you'll meet the pro from South Carolina. And welcome back to Benton, Kentucky. We have just finished the weigh-in. Anthony Gagliardi, his first win on the FLW Tour, $100,000 richer. And Larry, this young man fished great this week.
He really did. I'll tell you what, he caught the bass he needed to win, had a big smallmouth, and just had a great tournament, Anthony. And you know, did you decide in the beginning that you were strictly going to fish deep?
I did. I really did. When we fished here last year, I had found some fish cranking, and I caught them. And second day of the tournament, I lost a lot of fish, and it cost me probably making the top 10 last year. So I came here this year with the intent of hooking them this time and putting them in the boat and giving myself a shot to make it.
Now, you brought a lure in here, and talk to me just a little bit about that bait and how deep that you feel like you were catching your fish.
It's a unique deep diving crankbait. This is the first time that I fished it was in this tournament or in practice here. It has a tremendously wide wobble, and it pulls very, very hard. I mean, it took a toll on my arm, but I think that the wide wobble and when it deflects off structure, it really bounces off to the side. I mean, 4 to 6 inches.
So it was work just to really get it down there. It was a hard puller.
Very hard. I mean, my arm is sore. I mean, it was sore after the first day.
Was hitting the bottom one of the keys, Anthony?
The smallmouth that I caught when it was not hitting the bottom, but all the largemouth, it needed to be digging and it needed to be touching something.
You ought to feel these hooks, Taylor. They're actually sticky feeling. You touch the tips and they stick to you.
Yeah.
You feel that?
What kind of hooks, Anthony?
It's that Gamakatsu, and I sharpen every hook that I put on, even if it's brand new out of the package. I mean,
that's wild. That's a good feeling to feel. I like that, because if they get hooked and it's that sticky, you're usually going to get the barb in them, which means you've got a good chance of landing them.
You better get that bait back from Larry Nixon. He'll walk off with it.
I keep these for my collection. No, I'm going to give this back because you need to put this on the mantle.
Okay. He'll grab it from you later. His first FLW win, Anthony Gagliardi, Prosperity, South Carolina. Now back to the drama. How Anthony did it on the final day on Kentucky Lake. The race for the Kentucky Lake Championship is coming down to a shootout. Anthony Gagliardi still leads with 27 pounds, with Greg Hackney a pound back and David Dudley only ounces behind him. Andy Morgan's now in 4th place. Over to the Stratus Pro from Tennessee, a world-class flipper who's in some heavy brush in Lake Barkley, and Andy's having a good day.
Stay on there, young man.
That was his 4th keeper for 8 pounds on the day, and this one's his 5th as he keeps pace with the leaders.
You can see where that one was right there. He's right at the base of that biggest bush there, like in the gnarliest stuff that you can poke your camera lens in. That's where he was at.
But 4th place is as high as Morgan gets, and he ends up 6th, his best FLW finish in almost 2 years. Alton Jones needs a big move to have a realistic shot. What he'd like is 5 fish just like the one he's about to catch.
There's a good one. It's a big one. There's a big fish. Yes. Come on, baby. Stay hooked up. Stay hooked up. That'll work. Oh, man. Oh. That fish right there is why I'm up here. You know, I've been catching just some keeper fish, but I've been getting a bite or two like that every day, and the key is you got to put them in the boat, and that'll work. That fish will weigh, I think, maybe 5 pounds. And maybe there's some more with her. Thank you.
Unfortunately for Jones, it's his only big bite, and he ends up 9th. More of the field falls out of the race. Terry SEGRAVES catches 2 keepers, but stays in 10th. Morizo Shimizu gets a limit, but 8th is all he can do. Brennan Bosley's hot start fades, and he ends up 7th. Shin Fukai switches between a crankbait, a jig, and soft plastics, but his 12 pounds keeps him in 5th place. Day 1, 2, and 3 leader David Fritts is also feeling frustration, with only 3 fish until a late surge fills his live well.
There he is. Good one, I believe.
Fritts has stayed with the crankbait most of the day and has seen the hours and a possible 5th title slip away.
I don't know. I just, wish I had some more time, but I know everybody's got equal time. It's just most of my fish haven't been biting until later in the day, and man, every little bit makes a big difference.
Fritts tries a jig again for a while and then cranks until time runs out, but his 10-6 stringer drops him to 4th place. David Dudley's been around the lead all day. He's still fishing Lake Barkley, now at a place called Honker Bay, and he's in 3rd place. On a crankbait, Dudley gets his 5th keeper.
Feels like pretty good. Let's go keep.
Maybe.
It does keep, and it keeps Dudley in third place, about a pound out of the lead.
There he is.
But that's his last keeper fish, and Dudley can't catch Hackney and Gagliardi. He ends up third and takes home $25,000. Hackney's in Lake Barkley too, fine-tuning his brown jig with a green pumpkin trailer. He's a couple pounds off the lead when he catches fish only minutes apart. And that puts him only 14 ounces behind Gagliardi, with plenty of time to fish. Hackney's big move comes just before noon. With a limit in his live well, he gets the bite he's been looking for.
Stay hooked up. Stay hooked up. Stay hooked up.
At 3 pounds, it gives Hackney the lead.
Female, first one I caught. See her belly? That's how you can tell.
Hackney keeps flipping and ends up adding one more keeper that helps him a few ounces. His 2-day total is now 29.3 and reflects an 8-ounce penalty from day 3 for weighing a dead fish, something he hopes does not come back to haunt him. Gagliardi's been cranking for over 2 hours without a keeper bite, and he trails Hackney by a little more than a pound. With less than 15 minutes before he has to head in, he catches his 7th fish. He's able to improve by a few ounces, but still needs a big bite. With 5 minutes fishing time left, Gagliardi connects again.
There it is. That feels like a good one. Stay on. I needed that one bad.
The fish goes almost 3 pounds, and now he has to make the most important culling decision of his life. Taking 2 measurements, Gagliardi finds his smallest fish and hopes he's calculated right.
I still think I needed to catch one big one either yesterday or today. I might would have had a shot then. It's easier for me. It's easier on my nerves if I just go ahead and say that I probably don't have a shot. Start entertaining the idea I might win, then I get nervous.
The weigh-in comes down to Hackney and Gagliardi, and Anthony's last-minute catch proves to be pure gold, giving him his first FLW title by a mere 5 ounces. Anthony, that must have felt good to raise that big check over your head.
Yeah, I needed that. It was a big confidence boost for me this year. I've had a pretty good year, but I've been down on myself after a few tournaments that I really felt I should have caught fish in and didn't. And I think this should help my confidence and put me back where I need to be.